Where do you need a new way of thinking? Faulty thinking keeps us feeling stuck and helpless. So, today we're going to talk about 3 areas where you can have faulty thinking and how you can start to break out of that for a change. I'm McCove Johnson. I am a spiritual mentor and an emotional health coach with a passion for Christian moms to be whole and healthy emotionally so that they can equip their children with healthy emotions for healthy relationships and to answer God's call on their life. We have been going through Gary Scazzero's book, The Emotionally Healthy Woman, for February and March. This is the second to last chapter. She talks about 8 things that we need to quit to be emotionally healthy. And so faulty thinking is one of those things that we need to quit. And faulty thinking is a little bit different than like a lot of times you'll hear me talk about the lies we believe or kind of those core beliefs. And this is a little bit different in the sense that it's an overall way of thinking. So the first main category is all or nothing thinking. And so all or nothing thinking is like I used to, so thankful I don't anymore, but I used to, if my husband would come home and the kitchen wasn't clean and he was frustrated about it, then that meant, excuse me, that meant I was a bad wife, I was a bad housekeeper, like everything was bad because I was disappointed about this one thing. And that kind of actually brings in 2 areas of faulty thinking. One is the all or nothing, that it's either all good or all bad, black and white, and personalizing it, that the fact that he was upset with the kitchen reflected on me and my value. Those are 2 big areas of faulty thinking, the all or nothing and personalizing it, and I often combined them both. And while I don't often fall into that, I actually did a few weeks ago. It's probably been almost a month ago now. I'm just really struggling with feeling like not doing well in my business. I'm not doing well as a mom because I'm always trying to work a little bit more because the business isn't doing what I want it to. Um, just feeling as a mom with relationship issues with older kids and um, the house, and it just constantly disappointed in myself. And then feeling if I was not even criticized, just if I was shown how to do something, like I was getting really defensive. And it happened a couple of times where I was pretty snappy and defensive over a couple weeks. Excuse me. And my husband was like, why are you getting so upset? Like, I'm just trying to help. And so I sat and thought about it, and I'm like, well, I'm already doing the best I can, and it's clearly not good enough. And so I had let, for whatever reason, like I had let that come in, and kind of that all or nothing thinking that like things aren't working the way I want. So nothing is good. I'm not good at anything. Like, again, bringing those 2 faulty lines of thinking together, the all or nothing and personalizing it, that it's all about me, um, to a place where I was really like, the enemy was just constantly harassing me with that thought that my best is clearly not good enough. And I knew it wasn't true in my head, but in my soul, like, it hurt so bad because there was part of me that believed that was true. Um, so that kind of like ties to the lie that I was believing. But the thinking of everything is all bad or everything is all good, or if someone is disappointed, that that is about me instead of about the circumstance or even about them. Um, so those are 2 ways of faulty thinking that can trip us up so much as women and moms especially since so many of us tend to be people pleasers. So then if somebody's upset, it must be about us. So not true. Um, but a thinking that we need to break free from for sure. And then the third way of faulty thinking is letting the past predict the future. And in some situations, that's wise. Like if someone has a track record of lying to you, it's probably wise to assume that unless something significant has changed, they're going to lie to you again in the future. Um, and if you're watching, say hi. It's not showing me comments again. Um, but the past doesn't necessarily predict the future. Just because I haven't had a full roster of coaching clients yet doesn't mean that I'm never going to. Just because I haven't um, successfully kept my house and my schedule the way I want to doesn't mean that I never can. But I can fall into that thinking of like, what's the point? Like, I've tried, again, back to like my best. I'm doing my best and it clearly isn't good enough. And I can slip in that victim of like, it's just helpless. There's no point because like it just doesn't work for me, which I have learned is a very common trait of someone with childhood emotional neglect. Feeling like what works for everybody else won't work for me because I am more uniquely broken than everyone else. Um, and we're also, if you've experienced childhood emotional neglect, you were also trained that everything was your fault. People's moods around you, how the family was going, um, it was your responsibility. So this is where some of that faulty thinking may have come from. And another trait of childhood emotional neglect that I was somewhat relieved to discover is a lack of self-discipline, because learning to manage your emotions and having just having that paid attention to and someone to help you regulate and figure that out is a key part of developing self-discipline. So I missed that. So while it doesn't make it okay, and I can't just be like, oh, well, I'm not going to have any self-discipline because I didn't get it when I was a kid, it raises that awareness like, now I need to start doing things to build trust with myself and to build that self-discipline of doing small things every day to make a change and to make progress towards building that self-discipline. And I have the added bonus of it being a fruit of the Spirit. So the Holy Spirit is in me and gives me his self-control. Do I always know how to use it and tap into it? No, but it's there and it helps. And it's something I can grow in also, is learning to use his self-control. Um, so breaking out of these unhealthy mindsets, because these ways of thinking are not helping us and they're not helping our relationships. So how do we break out? The first step that she gave to knowing how to break out is to know when not to follow your feelings. But she's been sharing a lot of her stories of how realizing where she was frustrated and where she felt unseen and things like that was her indication that something needed to change. And so, in a way, like listening to her emotions. But that's not always the right thing to do. So, learning to discern, when are my, I was going to say, when are my emotions giving me good information? But they're always giving you good information. It's just how you're interpreting it. Because if we are in a place of personalizing everything and someone's disappointed, and so now we feel picked on or we feel rejected, then that's going to make us want to run away and hide or lash out, depending on, what your personality is. And that would not be okay because you're not getting a full picture. Um, like when I was in that place of my best clearly isn't good enough, I got some feedback from my business coach, and it just hit me as like I am being picked on and like my best isn't good enough and this just clearly doesn't work for me. And again, knowing it wasn't true, but it was feeling so much and just being like, okay, what's the truth here? the truth is that she cares enough about me and my business to tell me what I need to hear, if it's what I want to hear or not. She's not picking on me. She's trying to help me. And so being able to realize that following the emotions of she's picking on me and I just don't matter here, so I should disappear and hide. No, those weren't the emotions I needed to follow. I needed to step back and see, oh, that's just triggering this faulty thinking, this way that I'm responsible for everything and take everything personally, instead of, no, this is exactly what I'm paying her for, is to tell me what I need to hear so that I can fix it, because clearly I can't do it on my own. And that's the power of having a coach, is we might know things, but we might not be able to act on them. Or sometimes we just can't see it because it's so familiar. And so we need that outside perspective to be like, this is what it looks like from the outside. What does it look like from the inside? And help us sort through where are we using that faulty thinking? Where are we believing those lies? Where are there some wounds, so that the truth of what we know in our head isn't sticking and we're not living from it, because those wounds don't allow the truth to grow. And that was what I felt processing through some of that, the feelings from the feedback from my coach, was that if there's nowhere for the truth to land, then it feels like you're being picked on. Because in the place I was in, like, there was only, like, all the woundedness was on the top. There wasn't a place for the truth to land. So it just hurt, because if you've got an open wound and you touch it, it hurts. But learning to use your emotions in that way to see, like, this is hurting, and what do I actually need to deal with? Like, cutting off that person and being mad at them, giving them the cold shoulder because I think they're mad at me, is not going to be the proper way to respond with those emotions. But digging a little deeper and finding out what's really going on is going to be. Um, and kind of along with that is her second step, is to stop mind reading. Stop assuming that you know what other people were thinking and what their motives were for what happened, unless you're going to do that in the most generous way possible. Um, and I love how Brene Brown teaches on this, of the generosity to give everyone the benefit of the doubt that they are doing the best they can. And she shares how she really wrestled with that, of like, that can't be true. And I wrestle with it even for myself, of like, I look around and things are still a mess, or things aren't done, or whatever. So, like, how can I really say I'm doing the best I can? But I am. Like, when you pull all of the circumstances and all of the skills that I have or don't have, and all those different pieces, like, at any given moment, I'm doing the best I can. Is it what I want? Is it my ideal best? No. But it's the best I can with what I have in the moment. Um, And so it's not like an excuse to not try and do better, or to not challenge others to do better. But if we assume that they are doing their best and that they have good intentions, that's going to be much better for our relationships. It's much better for our personal stress levels than if we're always assuming somebody was out to get us, or that they were intentionally mean. If they forgot an appointment, being like, oh, well, they got mad at me, and making this whole huge scenario in your head, instead of being like, well, life is really busy. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they got it down on the wrong day. So just that, stop reading people's minds and assuming the worst. If you're going to make assumptions about people, assume the best. And then do something different. If you keep doing the same thing and it's not working, stop and figure out what to do different. And so for me, like, if I'm doing my best and it's clearly not good enough, I need to do something different. Stop and see, am I taking on too much? Am I trying to get too much done? Do I have unrealistic expectations most of the time? And just bring it back to, like, what has God told me to do? Not all the things I want to do and how I think it should work, but what is he telling me to do right now? And do something different instead of I'm just going to keep doing these same things over and over again. They say that's the definition of insanity, is to keep doing the same things expecting a different result. So do something different. Figure out, whether it's thinking different or stating your opinion when you normally would keep quiet, or saying an encouraging word when you would normally stay quiet, biting your tongue when you would normally be critical. Do something different. Um, to stop that faulty thinking and to realize you do have the power to make different choices and to make changes in your life. You're not stuck. You're not a victim. So, hope that's a blessing to you. The Operation Parent Takeover Summit is going on right now. My interview will be released on Saturday, March 27th, and then I'll be doing a live Q&A on March 29th. You need to be registered at operationparenttakeover.com so that you can hear those interviews and be in the group. And the organizers giving away prizes, and there's a different parenting coach. I'll be talking about childhood emotional neglect in parenting, and then there's 10 other parenting coaches talking about different aspects of parenting. So check that out. And then next week, I'm part of a conference on overcoming childhood trauma. And again, I'll be talking about childhood emotional neglect, what that looks like in your life, possibly, and also how to not pass it on to your kids. And so I'll put links for both of those below, and would love to hear from any of you on what you'd like to focus on next. If you have some ideas, if you have some areas you're struggling, or want to share more wins, whatever it is, I'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you back next week. Remember that your healing heals generations.